Okay, are you ready for the pre-roll clickbait? Is this the death of Unsplash?
Most likely is the answer.
Welcome to the Photography Opinion Podcast. We discuss all things photo, video, and camera related. I'm Ben Lucas.
And I'm Stuart Marlantis.
And this is Photo Op. So today on the podcast, we have kind of an interesting news topical episode. So something very recently happened in the photo industry, and we're going to kind of dive in, dissect it, and give opinions. So Stuart, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about a major development in stock photography, specifically Getty Images acquiring Unsplash, which is a free stock photography website, essentially. They had a really permissive license. Basically, anybody could upload anything to it for free, and it could be used for literally anything. Sometimes, as we've mentioned in past episodes, for things that the photographer didn't really appreciate. And now Getty is buying them because they finally got big enough to be a threat, I suspect.
Yep, sounds right.
Yeah. So, Getty Images is, if you're not familiar with them, they own a whole bunch of stock.
They own everything.
Like everything. They own iStock. They have a huge library of paid stock photography. So they're
Disney
like the big
is
one.
to the film industry that Getty is to the photography industry.
Exactly. So, yeah, this is a huge acquisition. Unsplash is by far, I would say, the most notable of like the totally free stock photography sites, and yeah, they've been quite the force, and now Getty has snapped them up. So people have thoughts about it, and so do we.
So before we dive into our opinions, I'm going to read what they had to say on the subject.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay. The reason I'm excited about this acquisition is because it's not goodbye, it's about acceleration. This is not one of those tech acquisitions where the company is bought to be shut down. Unsplash will continue to operate as a standalone brand and division of Getty Images.
No, that's a nice thought, but this is the kind of thing that you hear a lot from, especially tech company acquisitions, is this acquisition gives us the resources to be even better at what we currently do. This is something that has been said. No, it's not. Like, look at WhatsApp, for example. WhatsApp was purchased by Facebook a number of years ago for a gazillion dollars, and they said, "Oh, it's going to be a separate thing. Your data is not going to be part of Facebook. We're going to be a separate division. This is going to give us resources to expand, just like Instagram." And hey, all of a sudden, they start integrating into Facebook. They just wait until the panic dies down, and then they do what they intend to do.
I now
anyway.
get Instagram messages through my Facebook Messenger, which sucks because Instagram is nothing but spam for me.
Yep. Yeah. So all of that kind of stuff is just, I feel like at this point, if you're a like tech company CEO and you sell, you will be setting a new standard if you don't have this bullshit that you just spew related to your acquisition. To be perfectly frank, like it is that. This happens again and again and again. It happens so much. There's actually a very funny Tumblr blog called Our Incredible Journey, because pretty much every acquisition seems to use that same phrase. Like, this has been our incredible journey, and we're not saying goodbye. This is a new chapter. This is such a common thing, and can we just like stop doing this? Like, everybody has seen this happen over and over and over again, where a promising smaller company gets purchased by a huge one and then gets either totally gutted or shut down, or gutted and then shut down later because it ruined what was good about the original thing. Like,
or absorbed, where they take all the content and you lose all the good stuff that was about the independent.
Like, that's why these are commonly called acqui-hires, because really the company buying the smaller one doesn't really care about their tech that much. They just want to acquire that talent. And in the case of Getty, this is very much they're acquiring a competitor. So they're doubly so that they would want to maybe not totally eliminate, at least not at first, but reduce the free the weight that Unsplash provides as a free service. Yeah.
So how much do you want to take bets that before 2021 is over, Unsplash no longer provides free photos, whether it's shut down or whether it's 100% paywalled?
I don't think it would be by the time 2021's over. They're getting smarter about this, and I would give it at least 1 year before things get too weird. They knew probably buying them that this was gonna come across and be a huge story, and people were going to rightly, be upset about it, and photographers were going to threaten to pull their work off of Unsplash, and Getty, of course, doesn't want that. So they're going to wait until all of this dies down.
You're going to wait till everyone forgets,
and then they'll do it. So I'm going to probably say like a year out. And this might not be all at once, right? Like it might not be a singular, just they shut everything down and make it all paid. Like they might just make it so irritating to get any free stuff off of the site that it eventually becomes like a de facto paid site, even though technically you can still get free images there. But yeah, I mean,
it's the same way where when I was looking for so I had a very creative YouTube thumbnail for my auto pull video, and when I was looking for pole dancers, essentially, there were a couple of stock sites where they were like, oh yeah, it's absolutely free, but you have to sign in, create a profile, and then you only get 5 free downloads before. So it's like technically free, but is it?
Yeah. Not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing with these acquisitions and these founders that always say, "Oh, we're so excited about this," you can't promise this. You're no longer the boss. No. Getty is the boss. I don't understand why over and over again these people promise this. You can't promise that your business won't be totally shut down tomorrow, or at the very least dramatically changed within a short period of time. So just stop promising it, because it's just weasel words basically at the end of the day. Like it doesn't mean anything. And Getty has done this kind of stuff, has done shady stuff in the past. They have pulled weird licensing deals. They have been extremely litigious, just incredibly litigious, more than most other intellectual property companies, arguably. And they like doing screwy stuff. Like they love snapping up public domain images, like stuff from NASA. Fun fact, everything that NASA produces, because it's a publicly funded institution, is in the public domain. So you can take anything that NASA has released and use it for any reason. It's in the public domain. Getty likes to hoover all that stuff up, which they legally are allowed to do, and then license or charge for them. And people think, oh, well, it's on Getty. I have to pay for this. This is the only way to get it. They must have the license. No, they don't. You can go and get it off of NASA's website. Getty just wants you to think that they own the license. And so I could see that being a thing with this too, where they take Unsplash's huge library and they put it in Getty and charge for it. And maybe it still is free on Unsplash, but they want people who are already in the Getty system to pay for it, even though they could go somewhere else and get it for free. So Getty has done this kind of stuff in the past. Why a company, why a company would get acquired like this, because they finally gave them a big enough check, and so they sold out. Basically, that's what this is.
I have a very relevant yet completely unrelevant tangent. Since it is indeed April and it is tax season, the same way that like QuickBooks and H&R Block and TurboTax want you to think that you can't file your taxes for free. If you don't own like $1 million or a small business and you're not a super complicated tax structure, you absolutely can file your taxes for free. And we will link to a video that I don't know, it was some big comedian with a show. But we will link to that on how to do your taxes for free. But I think it's the same idea of this is available, but we're going to try and hide all of the free ones so that you don't know about them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I kind of got there in a roundabout point. By the way, tax deadline in the U.S. is extended a little bit this year. Huzzah. But go do your taxes if you need it. Sure, we'll link that. But yeah, I think it's that same thing where the companies don't like something free being available, because how do you charge for something when people can get it from free? You have to kill the free thing.
Well, and that's a perfect question. How do you charge for something if people can get it for free. And that there is a way that Getty is going to essentially charge money for these free images. I mean, sure, we're guessing that Unsplash is going to be dramatically changed at some point in the future, and it will be, screwed with enough that it's essentially a paid service. But in the very short future, this has essentially been announced, and what they're going to do is they're not, at least they say they're not going to load it with ads. They're going to basically have brands pay them to float their images to the top when people search for things. So much like any other kind of paid search business, if a Coke pays them $1 million, then when somebody searches for soda or for soft drink, Coke is always at the top, even if they don't search specifically for Coke. So it's going to be that sort of thing where there's already a brand system that's being put in place to give you those images first, so that hopefully their brand is spread farther. So that's how they're going to do it, at least at first, and we'll see what happens in the future. Yeah.
Heavy eye rolls over here.
Well, and this is a thing that Unsplash has always been, I think, a little controversial. A lot of people say that it devalues the stock photography industry, or some people even say it devalues the stock or the photography industry in general, because there's so many. It actually is kind of staggering how much good imagery is on Unsplash for free, and a lot of people, this is kind of the hobbyist angle is some people are really good photographers and they don't care about making money on it, and people just love seeing their images used, and so they put it on Unsplash and it gets used millions of times. And I guess to all those people that say that Unsplash was devaluing the industry, well, Getty's gonna try to value it back up again. So,
I mean, we did a whole podcast about this, about the Unsplash thing, but no, I think it's exactly right where Getty's gonna try and make it expensive. Hey, Stuart, you remember like a decade ago when we were working at an SEO company together, and whenever we had a website we were trying to build, that they're like, hey, can you get us a stock photo? We're not gonna name it because it was awful. I'm about to say horrible things about this website. But there was basically one option because the people we worked for were cheap. And it was, here, you can get anything off this site and it's free. But all of that stock was so bad. It was just so atrociously terrible. I'm like, I wouldn't even want this photo for free. That's how bad it is. It's like somehow clip art through a camera lens. It was just awful.
If there was any innovation that Unsplash had a hand in, and I can't give this entirely to them, I'm sure that there are other examples, but one of the things that Unsplash did so well was they kind of cleaned that up. There was a lot of dodgy, terrible free stock sites out there, and when they came around, there was, for whatever reason, I mean, Unsplash, like, they don't, to my knowledge, they don't have any staff adding to the photography on Unsplash. Like, they just run the site. It's all user submitted content. And so, but for whatever reason, they have cultivated, I think because it originally,
I think it started as kind of this hipster underground.
It was curated.
Anti.
Yeah, it started actually as a Tumblr blog, where it was this like curated. We give you 10 free images a day, and they're supposed to be these, really.
I remember that.
Images.
Yeah,
that's what Unsplash was. It was originally a Tumblr blog until it outgrew that and became this huge thing. And so, putting that focus on quality in place from the get-go led to Unsplash just, maintaining this crazy, I mean, for a free site, this crazy level of quality. And that really kind of, compared to almost all the other sites that were available at the time, that really raised the bar for everybody. So it was interesting to watch Unsplash quite literally make a splash in the free stock photography market. So yeah, it is, this is sad to see. I used Unsplash a ton. I think this is a big mistake, although I do understand that they need to make their money too, and it cost them something like, I don't know, it was like $18,000 a month in bandwidth costs or some crazy thing. Yeah.
Wow.
I saw $18,000 a month somewhere. So don't quote me on that. That might not be exactly correct, but actually that sounds about right for the scale of Unsplash. I mean, they had to be doing, over 100 terabytes of traffic every month. So I believe that number. But yeah, so they got to pay their bills, and I think there are probably better ways to pay their bills than selling to Getty of all companies. I think there are other companies that could have that are better options, and actually we'll get into some alternatives in a bit, and we'll circle back on that. But I'm in general pretty disappointed about this. I've never been somebody who's really plugged into the stock photography world. I've never shot stock photography. I have. In my opinion, stock photography has never really been a worthwhile venture, at least as long as I have been shooting.
So I will say back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I mean its heyday was ending as I was getting into photography.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day, basically before photography was democratized, photography was expensive. You shot film. You had to develop it. You couldn't look at the back of your camera. You had to be a masterful technician.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to get any kind of photo, even a super cheesy one of like a woman eating salad, I don't know why that's the de facto, like laughing while eating salad.
I saw, maybe it was an Instagram page. I saw some sort of blog or something where it was just a compilation of
just laughing at salad.
Yeah, women laughing at salad. It's great. It's great.
So the thing is,
look it up.
It used to be that to take those photos was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was no competition. So if you were doing it, if someone needed one of those photos, then there was a lot of money to be had. So I know a lot of photographers that, when I say I know photographers, I mean I know photographers that grumble about kids nowadays and are like on their way towards retirement, not like our age.
Mm-hmm.
So those photographers did very, very well in stock photography because in one day, let's say they shoot like 500 photos of a model doing just a bunch of really random stuff. They upload it all of like half those photos get a few hits, but then that just kind of in the aggregate, they made enough money for the day. But the thing is, tomorrow they're going to keep making money off those. So it's kind of this snowball effect where you just shotgun as much crap out into the universe as possible and you make good money. Mm-hmm. But now that cameras are cheap, cameras are good, they can auto white balance, they can auto exposure, you just zoom in and you get that creamy DSLR depth of field look that you didn't be able to get when we were in college, basically. It's just cameras make it so cheap and so easy, and now it's about people's creativity and skill, and because it's so democratized and almost anyone can do it and there's so many people, that is amazing for photographers that you don't have to be able to do all this investment and get into it, but it's very bad for stock photography because oftentimes I look at a licensing for a photo and go, well, shit, it's cheaper for me to get a model and shoot it than it is to license this image. Yeah. So it kind of makes sense why stock has been driven down and made so cheap. Like I definitely appreciate cheap stock that is good or free stock that is good, but some of the licensing on some of those images are like $7,500, $200. It's like, I understand if Coca-Cola is putting it on a billboard, make them pay, but like, I'm just trying to put it on a blog, man.
Yeah, the little guy can't pay those rates. I don't mean to I'm certainly not disparaging stock photography or stock photographers. Like it was a big thing for a while. I just think, unfortunately, the industry has kind of moved on, and it's either hyper inflated in cost or the bottom has fallen out of it, and there's just tons of free stuff out of there. So I think at this point, whoever figures out how to do, like custom stock photography for reasonable prices is probably going to make a lot of money. There's a large online retailer that sells many products. I think they used to sell books. They do that. My brother hired them to do a custom stock photography thing for his book cover. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And it was
unfortunately, the
so.
industry's kind
And
of
here's
moved on.
here's the other thing about that. It was custom, and it was so his book cover. My brother's a dentist, and his book cover was pouring. It's called More Chocolate, Less Cavities, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so his custom stock thing was pouring chocolate out of a toothpaste tube onto a toothbrush. A very odd and specific thing, and they shot it for less than 1 hour of what I would charge.
Wow.
Like way
Crazy.
less. It was
Crazy.
insane. And they even shot multiple iterations of it for him over like multiple days. And I'm like, yeah, no, they have this down to like a science where like we can't
Economies of
compete
scale,
with
I
that.
guess.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
So that does exist, and it kind of upsets me that it exists.
Oh well. So,
But yeah, let's talk about some alternatives since Unsplash is dead. Wait. Okay, are you ready for the pre-roll clickbait? Is this the death of Unsplash?
most likely is the answer.
All right, so let's talk about some alternatives of where you can get some free stock photos. So hit me. What's a place people can go?
Well, there's a few places. Let's start with the one that I most recently found, which is stocksnap.io. Stocksnap is, again, free. I mean, all of these are free or mostly free stock photography sites. Stocksnap is interesting. It's pretty new, and the images are, I want to say lower quality, although that sounds kind of bad. They feel a little bit more real. This is one that I haven't explored as much, to be fair. I only recently found this, but this is a site that has like Unsplash kind of developed its own style over time. I felt like almost like 500 Pics did back in the day, and Stocksnap feels very kind of rough and real by comparison, and I think it might be interesting to people that are looking for free stock photography, but that feels like, you know, you might have just shot it yourself today. You know, there's no you know, there's not that incredible like level that Unsplash had, but I think that kind of works to its favor. So I would check it out. Stocksnap.io. I don't make any promises, but it was intriguing to me when I found it.
All right, I have one people can look into. Pexels. That's like the word pixels, but with two E's.
Yep.
Pexels. And again, the links to all these in the description. So I think Pexels is almost as close as you can get to Unsplash in kind of its anti-studio, anti-professional kind of hipster indie vibe with all of its photography, where yeah, you might see a couple of studios in like a nice daylit thing, you know, bedroom which is probably like a studio or something, but it doesn't feel like a commercial photo shoot. It's all very like I just today I went and looked at it as a refresher, and on the front page there were like 4 images that were blurry. Just because like that was kind of like the mood and feel of the image.
Yeah,
so
makes sense.
So it's a very raw kind of hipster bohemian for a lot of which is kind of how I described Unsplash. So yeah, check out Pexels.
Yep. Pexels is a good one. Another one that's actually owned by the same parent company is Pixabay, which is pretty much like Pexels, but different.
Okay, so it's not owned by so it's not being owned by Getty.
No, it's not. It is not owned by Getty. Pixabay is its own thing. To my knowledge, Pexels and Pixabay started separately, kind of grew separately, and then they eventually came to be acquired by Canva, which is kind of a online graphic design tool. It's actually pretty good. Yeah.
For any of you independent creators, if you're too cheap to buy Photoshop, no judgment, but all of the YouTube creators that I know use Canva for their YouTube thumbnails if they don't want Photoshop. So I know people that like they shoot everything on their phone, but they still need a YouTube thumbnail, so then they use Canva. So that's kind of their little trifecta there.
Yeah, so Pexels, Pixabay, both are Canva acquisitions. As I said, we would circle back to this, and who I think Unsplash should have sold themselves to instead of Getty is probably Canva. They so far they bought Pexels and Pixabay, and so far they haven't really screwed with them too much. They basically bought them to include their libraries within Canva's native interface, because within Canva you can actually select stock photography just right in there. And
nice.
that's pretty much why they bought Pexels and Pixabay is, hey, well, let's add these libraries to our tool. And they've continued to run them as separate sites. They've continued to be free. So yeah, I mean, no promises, of course. Canva might decide tomorrow. I mean, considering I just said this, Canva will likely decide tomorrow to shut them down and make me wrong.
Why did you say that, Stuart? You jinxed it. It's
No.
all your fault.
But so far they have been a pretty good parent company from what I can tell. These are all German. I think they might have all been German, like Pexels and Pixabay and Canva are all German. I read that somewhere, that like there was this weird sort of trifecta of German imaging companies that came together. So anyway, good on Germany,
I'm not mad about
it. Yeah. So yeah, Pexels, Pixabay, Stock, Snap, you've got options. We'll see what happens in the Unsplash. I am hoping that Getty does a good thing for once in their existence, but I'm not planning on it. So
all right,
there you go.
so let's make a bet here and now. April 1st, 2022, if Unsplash stops doing free stuff before then, I win, and you have to do something embarrassing on the podcast. Right. But if it stops giving free images in between April 2nd, 2022 and April 1st, 2023, then you win, and okay. I have to. After that, we both lose. Everyone, right. Well, or everyone wins because they still get free stock photos.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, cool. Sounds good. I will take that. So, if you have strong feelings about stock photography or free stock photography or Getty, again, Getty's involvement in stock photography, we would love to hear them. You can always reach out to us at hello@photo-op.show is our email address. And as we always say, we would appreciate ratings and likes and shares and all of those good things that help make a podcast grow. I can't speak today.
I will add in one more final message from our sponsor, me. Did you know that we have a Patreon? What? So you can go to patreon.com/nomcreative.
Mm-hmm.
There is a $1 tip jar option right now. Just leave us a tip. It helps pay for hosting and electricity and, stuff it takes to run a podcast. So we enjoy bringing you this content and would like to enjoy being able to continue to do so. So thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
If you have questions or ideas for future episodes, you can email us at hello@photo-op.show.
Watch us on Ben's YouTube channel at NomCreative.
As in Om Nom Nom.
Share this with a friend, and you can listen to Photo Op anywhere podcasts are sold.
Or download it. 'Cause it's free.